there was some event last night. I'm not sure we can call what we saw in Ottawa a football match per se, but considering the conditions, I thought the players were quite amazing. I'm surprised they weren't hitting the deck more than they were, but the slide tackles are going in looked like a ton of fun. And Dubsy, let me ask you, I mean, would that be fun? Once you get over the cold,
yeah,
all right, and those extreme conditions, I imagine, and then remove the fact that it's a bloody final and there's so much riding on it, it's probably a fair bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a blast. But I mean, once that snow started to accumulate, you mentioned it, it wasn't soccer. Both Tommy and Ottawa's coach were talking about the fact that it was more spectacle than it was, both teams showcasing their brand of football that they played all year. So you throw that out the window, and what does that distill down to? And like something, so I'm going to shift gears. So yes, it's fucking fun. It's great, but it's a final. Do you want to be removing all of the elements that got you to the final due to the conditions, of this most important event? Like everything is culminated for this moment, and you're playing in conditions where you can't really lean on your strengths. So for me, player safety, right? Like, so playing in snow, fine. You snowplow the lines, you make sure that the referees can do their jobs. The players have their bearings and their wits about them. But then when all of that snow was on the pitch, like I don't understand. Like, I mean, they're lucky, I think, that somebody didn't get injured. And I wonder too, I was thinking about this after the fact. I was talking to JP about it because he was involved in player unions with the AHL and the East Coast Hockey League during his hockey career, his professional hockey career. And he asked me about the NSL game, the semifinal between Toronto and Montreal that was supposed to take place at York Lions Stadium, kickoff at 2 p.m. And that did not go off. That's going to happen Monday, 6 p.m. And I'm at a hotel right now looking at the snowfall outside. So fingers crossed that that's happening. So I wonder if the Professional Players Union was consulted. So it ends up being, yes, it was fun. Yes, it was very cool to see a different team win, two different teams in that final other than Forge. And I think in the last 4 years, you've seen different winners. So that's great for the league. And I think the exposure of playing in a Canadian league and playing in snow, and I mean, the reverberations of that, I think, were felt worldwide, like Sky Sports, Fox Sports, like people retweeting it and like plugged into it, whether you're an influencer or a pundit or like one of these big broadcast entities. That's great for the league. But was it great for the players? And I worry that was not a consideration in the decision making to go forward with it.
Craig, there's so many angles here, as Doug's mentioned there. It wasn't football, but I wonder if the brass at the CPL are thinking to themselves, yeah, it wasn't a great showcase for our talent, but the BBC had it on their front page. Reuters had it. Fox, Men in Blazers, every football company out there was talking about the fact that this crazy game happened, and not just a crazy game, but a crazy game with one of the worldies of all time.
Oh my goodness!
In that first half, in fact, even the second goal was a great goal. In those conditions, it makes it even more miraculous, quite honestly. But do you think the CPL like, yeah, okay, ideally you're playing in great conditions, you can see how good these players and teams are, but we're not getting coverage on BBC or Reuters unless that happened last night?
I don't think that they knew that was going to happen, to be honest with you. I think it just sort of was a byproduct of it. There's probably more to go about, well, we got a final here, and what happens if we call this off? Where do we place it? Where do we reschedule? And then from TV point of view, is there space for it to be put on again? There's all these different challenges, but they have more eyeballs on that from social media standpoint than they've had for the entire other 7 or 6 finals they've ever had. The exposure is massive for the league. It was absolutely everywhere on social media. So from that standpoint, it's a slam dunk win for the league. I mean, I found it very intriguing. I actually just watched it because there was so much snow. Like, it was fun. It was fun to see how
after some dark web probing or prodding. Sorry.
Yeah,
two very different things.
Not probing. Not probing. Prodding. We were all texting, and Craig's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm going to sign in." I have to say, super enjoyable to watch, super memorable. I don't care if it was what you guys would consider soccer, football or not. It was so much fun. And once again, going back to the media, good on CPL. I hope they consulted and the players were all in.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great crowd in Ottawa. I just tried to look it up. I couldn't find it, but
13,000. I think it was
nice. So the same as Forrest a couple of years ago.
And sorry, Wonger, if I could just interject, some of the supporters in like the long break before the extra time where they took the 40 minutes to clear the pitch. I was texting with Jimmy a little bit after. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this must have been crazy to call. He agreed. I wonder why they didn't do that at halftime. Like, why did you wait until the end of the game to do that? Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But there were a couple of fans, and like some of them are footy primers, and they shared on socials that they went to an arena, and I don't know if it was on Lansdowne Park, like part of those grounds, and they like deked into like I don't know if it was a beer league or like a competitive match, but they were in the stands and they shared photos of themselves during that 40-minute period, like just taking in this hockey game, and then they returned to TD Place for extra time. So I mean, hats off to those supporters, because those people
if they had gone and gotten a beaver tail and a poutine, then they would have had every check mark on the list almost.
Although from the images I saw in that extra time, I think a lot of those fans didn't return.
Oh,
yeah, that was seats, unfortunately. But I mean, what do you want? It was. I mean, okay, I'm so torn here because I'm thinking Craig, because Craig and I were talking back and forth in the dark web and thinking, what are they doing? Like, geez, they played 90 minutes in these conditions. Just play another half an hour. But I guess if you can at least play half an hour on semi-playable conditions, that's better, I guess, than really a farce that the previous 90 minutes were. I think that's probably what the CPL were thinking. We'll talk to them, we'll find out. But I think that's probably what the mindset was. Man, listen, it's a goddamn final. Let's try and play some football. Mm-hmm. But I wonder from an athlete standpoint how they were feeling. You're cooling down, what they were doing in that hour-long break, or however long it was, to stay warm, to keep those muscles warm, because, man, we've all done that before. You see, I sit down for 5 minutes and my muscles tighten up. Can't imagine an hour after all that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Like, obviously, I've never played in snowy conditions like that. I've played in snow. I've played in, torrential rain at the Olympics, where we went back into the locker rooms, thought the game was going to get called off. We had to go back after an extended break. The first time we ever beat China at a tournament in Australia, the lights went out, and then there was like a hour's delay, and we came back, and you're just trying to stay warm, and you don't always have the facilities. Like for the Olympics, we had like the luxury of having like indoor gym and like turf where we could take a break, and then you kind of get your warm up done and get touches on the ball before we went outside. But they don't have that at TD Place, or maybe like that's where the edge goes to Ottawa, because they might have that as the home team, but the away team doesn't have that. But going to the panel and listening to Jimmy and Jordan talk about it as like former players and like what you'd be doing, they're like, oh, I'd be in the shower, and like you get into your second strip, and obviously they have all that. But the worst thing for me would be removing my cleats. So you obviously have a secondary pair. You've got, your six studs. You've got like another pair of just like your regular boots. But then like your feet at that point, like you're removing your socks, you're removing all of your stuff. And then like to get all that stuff back on again, like that would be hard. And then it's almost like you have to adapt to the elements again with your tools, which are your boots, but also your feet and how they feel after they're freezing cold. You probably have lost sensation. They're warming back up. There's probably some swelling, and then you're crowding them back into boots, which I wore like so small, which is why I always lost my toenails. So like that's a consideration. But I just wanted to add, clearing the field. Yes, it allows them to play kind of whatever, what resembles soccer. Does that Rodriguez goal happen if they choose to not clear the field?
No chance.
Right? It does not. And like, I think going back to the eyeballs and all of the people that were tuned into it, yes, it's very Canadian, and look at what they're doing in CPL. But like the quality, like the worldy of that bicycle kick, which I think somebody coined as the icicle kick. And that's very, very clever. And I'm quite angry that I didn't come up with it myself.
BBC, I believe.
Dubs gets envious about certain things. Whoever's out there who coined that.
I kind of get like hot under the collar as like, and rage both at the same time. Like furious I didn't come up with it, but also like, oh, wow.
You can claim it if you want.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to. No, I can't. But if the quality on the goals aren't what they are, does it get the same reach? You know,
No.
if it's like shit football and it's 0-0 and it's got to go to penalties, it just doesn't happen. So I think Forrest is right with that. I don't think they predicted, or the CPL could have predicted, that it was going to have the eyeballs on it and the reach and kind of the traction that it ended up getting. But it's due to Rodriguez and his brace and the quality of those goals.
It's a perfect ice storm, isn't it, really, in that regard? Because the BBC
98
Reuters are thinking, wow, look at this crazy Canadian weather, and they're playing soccer in this, playing football in this, and then, oh my God, look at that.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't get the same play if not for the icicle kick.
But I got to ask both Amy and Craig, football is football. Like sports is sports. You train to do these things as look, you're not used to the conditions, but you're still up. Everyone's on the same playing field, the same ice rink as they were last night. You're competing against another player, another team, another club, and their fans. This is still sports, and that's what I thought was so brilliant about it. And yes, of course, you couldn't line this up to go, oh, it's going to go viral. But even we talked about it off camera, Sharms. Would we have been as enthusiastic and texting as much and dark webbing it as much had it not been like this?
Made that into a verb.
No.
Yeah,
dark webbing.
I did. I'm dark webbing it. That's also, never mind. I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, you
but
leave that alone.
we wouldn't have. And going back to the whole world's media picked this up. I got to read a quote from VP of Marketing from Canada Soccer, who I'm going to put this up on the screen and then blow it up a little bit for me. In minutes, the CPL final begins, and tomorrow NSL semis. Not a single story on Sportsnet about our national soccer leagues. Sorry, Sharms, I know you're working for them.
I know, I better be quiet here.
The unity we all experienced during the Blue Jays World Series run was in part due to all the Canadian media outlets amplifying the stories of players / team and why it matters to our country. They chose country instead of prioritizing just the rights they own. Imagine the power of sport if we all rode in the same direction. So I found that quite interesting because we all know where soccer ranks in Canada. We're familiar with the numbers. But what I found interesting was it's the first time I'd seen a Canada soccer exec kind of intimate, hey, you're not covering us enough. You're not doing your part, sports channel, whatever sports channel you are. And I even said in our dark web, when I was dark webbing this morning, he's I said washing in, but wading in to unknown territory. I think this is one of the first times that a executive from Canada Soccer is actually, it's not a call out, but it's close, right?
What's a
like
call
it was,
Mhm.
yeah, but it was still a nice call out, right? Because
Yeah,
it was
listen,
before the match. It was before the match, and so they
Yeah.
could have said,
Welcome
"Oh,
to
we're
They
gonna."
don't give a shit. They do not give a toss.
Craig Forrest says to Paolo Senra, welcome to the chat.
Yeah,
exactly.
welcome to the chat.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Can I
They
just,
tried to destroy the league. They tried to destroy One Soccer and Media Pro, which they actually were successful doing. Media Pro, anyway. They're the only ones that have ever invested in this sport here. Rogers, Bell, not a penny. Not a fucking penny. They're against it. There is powers. Remember when Ange talked about Australia and there's certain powers behind certain sports that make it very difficult for football to succeed in Australia as well as it does? Well, we got that here too. Sportsnet, Rogers own the baseball team. They're going to push it, make it seem like it's a really like a world event. There's nothing world about the World Series, like I've said before. And then with hockey, they put billions in investment into hockey. People in the States, soccer has already overtaken it as number 4, but you will not get Western media talking about that. It's still put NHL. It's like Premier League's more popular than NHL in the United States. You'll never hear that. League MX is more popular. MLS is actually the 3rd most popular league in the United States. You're not going to have anybody talk about that on mainstream media. So they're not going to do anything about it. They don't care about it. They've been mandated not to talk about it. They bring in Sharmers every once in a while to, we are we are called Sportsnet. There's nothing.
I'm going to go for a coffee.
Sportsnet. It's a hockey net, baseball net, a little bit of curling, a little bit of tennis, maybe. That's it. I worked for them for 18 years. I know exactly what they're about.
Sharms, what's your response?
Paolo, when I put my requests in this week for Canada training, please don't take it.
Yeah.
Don't hold it against me. Please. It's the nature of the media business in this country, and it's always been an uphill battle. We know that. That's why independents like ourselves and there's others are important. And how the media landscape's changing so much. We saw in England a podcaster, a blogger got the rights to the German Bundesliga on Fridays. It is switching, it's changing, but yes, also very frustrating still. Of course it is. You wonder what's going to happen at the World Cup next year. Everyone's going to be aboard that bandwagon for sure. But it's still a long way from.
Forrest will figure out how they can do as little as they possibly can.
Craig, I just put your name forward.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Oh boy!
It's like when Jimmy talks about TFC and he stays very quiet.
Yeah.
Speaking of TFC, you see the backdrop here in my hotel at Maple Leaf Square.
Well, describe it.
Right, for our audio listeners. So I was on a FaceTime with my husband JP and my kids, and he's like, "Where are you? And what's the artwork behind you?" And it's presumably a TFC player, not Jimmy, because he's wearing something on the bottom. He's wearing underwear or shorts, and doing a push-up on TFC branded soccer balls. Just interesting.
Are they is that the Jabulani ball? I think it is too, from 2010.
Well, I'm just thankful I can't see his Jabulani.
Oh, Jabulani.
Jabulani. Jabulani. Okay, back to the CPL final. Craig, have you finished, Craig? Have you finished destroying my career?
Yeah, I look forward to getting a call from Sportsnet for the World Cup. I'll be working for the World Feed. People outside the borders of Canada think I'm worth being part of the World Feed for FIFA. Awesome. People in Canada, they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. They don't know me from some CPL player. So there you go.
We love you.
We do.
That's why hey, we started this to try to fill a gap because we were hoping to give a little bit more influence and exposure to Canadian soccer everywhere.
6 years ago. I think we have. We can hold our heads up high. Back to the game. Diego Mejia has upset a lot of people this year. The coach for Atletico Ottawa. A lot of people. Even more so than Craig in the last 5 minutes. He's upset so many people across Canadian soccer circles.
What's your phone number again, Craig? So Sportsnet can call you.
But I guess he's validated now. They won the game. I mean, how are the coaches honestly feeling? How does Tommy Wilden Jr. feel? He's obviously, you saw him post-match, he looked gutted. You understand that. Defending champs getting so close. But you lose this way in these conditions. It isn't football. You still rate your team. It's fair to say that Ottawa should be given the mantle as best team in Canada. They won the cup. Even though Forge won the league, they won the cup. They got a lovely berth into the Champions Cup, which is huge. 4 teams now from Canada, by the way, for next year. That's superb. But how does the Tommy Wilden Jr. assess this, do you think, Dubs, this morning? He's a smart guy, Thomas, and I really feel for him. Mm-hmm. But you can't really hold anything against the way your team played, the way they played. It's just one of those crazy situations.
Yeah, and I think a team that is done so well, and they had a really uneven, some might even argue poor start to the season. And again, you end up in that final, and it's that birth into that continental play is right there at your fingertips. And this is a team that's done very, very well, right? In the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I think you, like your Tommy, you're measured. I think you take a step back when he's ready to take a look at what his team has accomplished. And I think you've got the pieces there to be a contender again next year. You keep building. Like I use that word deliberately because we've talked about Tommy. We've talked about what's his name for Bobby Smirniotis for Forge. Didn't mean to be dismissive. That's not dismissive of Bobby at all. It just went out of my head. And what they've done for Canadian soccer, not only for the CPL to give it that thrust, to give it that relevance, but what they've done in those respective markets for development and the game. And he will continue to do that. Then obviously the peak of the pyramid is Cavalry. And I mean, he's so integral to that community, and he's so important for that community. But for the team, I think they'll just get right back at it and figure out what that missing piece was. But again, he might be feeling a little bit salty. And that's not a double entendre with Sam Salter. It's not. But because they came so close, and maybe he's feeling like, you have a game that's not only will give you the title, but where that berth into the CONCACAF Champions Cup is on the line, and it's decided in those conditions. I think he's probably feeling that this morning as well.
Yeah, it'll hurt a little bit for sure. But I mean, like you said, the season didn't go smoothly for them with injuries and different other things, aspects of it. To manage to come and beat Forge on their turf and get to the final was a success in itself. And then the final, well, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, we know how they can go, but overall, tremendous. But he's a winner, and he hates losing, and he puts that pressure on the players and wants them to perform at a certain level.
Is Craig frozen?
I think
he might be. And I was just going to ask him. I was going to follow up what he was saying there to ask his opinion of the goalkeeping.
I was just despite you and I think too similar. You know that.
Me and wait, other way. Me and you, Sharms. Is he back?
No. It looks different if you have it mirrored or not. So people. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I always point the wrong way.
Sure. Yeah. Sure, Dan Wong.
It's your angled finger. It's not that at all.
Right. Sure. Just cool it on the dark webbing.
No, put it away.
Forrest, I was going to ask you about, despite the conditions, the quality of the goalkeeping that we saw, both from Carducci, but also our own. I say our own. I have a soft spot for All-State Nate, or Nate the Great, as I.
He is our own. Although Marco's a friend.
Marco's been on a couple.
Yeah, both friends of the show, but soft spot for me for Nate. And really pleased to see him get the win there and for that team. But his performance and some of the saves that he came up with, like, huge for Atletico.
Yeah. No, both of them did very well. They dealt with the situation quite well. And it isn't easy, especially if anything's bouncing in front of you. The inconsistency of that bounce. It could stay low, it could go high. It's not with the normal bounce you're going to see on the turf, which usually is very consistent. Very skippy, so you have to be very careful about what you do, and obviously talking to your back line and keeping possession at the right moments or not, and those areas. I think they dealt with that pretty well. I think both teams did, to be honest with you.
The images of Nate shoveling snow, and then coming over the top and punching the ball clear, then getting down and making the save late in the last seconds of the match as well. That's Nate right there.
People didn't see it either. He built a snowman. And it was like the 12th player in the corner.
I made the save. Okay, yeah. No, I think we're all happy for Nate, because Nate's been one of the faces of the league since day one. He's a brilliant guy on and off the pitch. Yeah, and I'm so happy for him to finally get that championship. I don't know if anyone deserves it more, quite honestly. So we'll get him on very, very soon. I hope Nate's really hungover right now. I was going to give him a text this morning. I thought I'll wait a little bit. He's probably hungover, and if he's not, come on, Nate. What the hell are you doing?
Nate's a bar guy. He was probably whipping up some dope cocktails for everybody.
Yeah, he probably was.
Although getting an early,
they were delicious.
There's nothing worse than getting an early tweet or early text from Sharms. Like, hey, how's it going? No one wants a 8:15 text from you.
Well, I thought about doing it last night, but I thought, you know what? You always hear, I won the cup, and 1,000 texts came in at once. I'm going to wait.
We support each other. People,
you want to feel important. I'm glad it's about you.
Yeah, he does. That's it.
Right now, I do, especially the phone wasn't ringing.
People don't realize how much we support each other at Footy Prime. Just in our stupidity on the dark web, we're literally giving each other props. If someone's we also call each other out all the time. So it's real. I think it's really healthy. And I think one time I shared, if you can't, hey, if you have conversations where you're calling your friends names and swearing at them, those are healthy. So I think we've created sometimes a little toxic, but usually a healthy situation here.
There were at least 4 texts about Jimmy Brennan last night with eggplant emojis beside them. So that should say everything. Jimmy was freezing. Well, I did one of them. JC definitely did one as well.
Okay.
There's some others making the rounds.
It gradually went from eggplant down to pea pod.
It's that cold. Yeah.
The pea pod with only 2 pea pods in it.
The panel were great actually because they're having to fill so much time, in those conditions. I give them credits. Yes, come on. Thank God it's Andy hosting because there's no one better.
Petrillo did a great job. Looked great too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to say though, sorry, about Nate, just to put a bow on that Canadian heritage moment, I think, of him shoveling, because I don't think it was performative. That was actually, if you know Nate, like that was him just kind of getting stuck in. And then also, if you're a goalkeeper, I'll ask Nate this if he comes on. I know they're clearing the lines to make sure, even though they didn't do like the full snow removal of the pitch until after normal time. But I wonder if like a goaltender in hockey, where you do you kind of clear your crease and you make like a little bit of a snow build near your line to try to prevent goals, or like doing your utmost there, a little bit of shithousery. I wonder if Nate, because you talked about building a snowman, if he was like strategically making sure that there was snow like behind him near his lines, if there was like a little trickler that maybe he'd get some help from the snow.
Yeah, pile it up next to the posts.
Yeah. It'd be silly not to.
Absolutely. Didn't Tommy try that a little bit of gamesmanship? He kept his subs off the bench to start the match in the locker room, so they stayed warm.
Yes.
Did he?
Atletico Ottawa brought attention to the ref, and he had to bring them back on.
Yeah, and the argument was that they did it during the Club World Cup when it was really hot. So, hey, it's cold. What's the difference? I'm going to let my subs stay in the dressing room. And then, there was some complaints, and then they had to haul them back out onto the bench.
It just adds it's a good rivalry now, right? Because Mejia's been at them, all year saying we're the greatest team to ever play the game, and that includes the 2011 Barcelona. He didn't say that, but that's I like it. I like, what? I think you need to have that big bad, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a villain.
The villain, Christ, it's not a hard word to think of. Villain.
A villain.
Because Forge have been the dominant team, having four championships, right? But they're never seen, for me, as a villain. They're always quite likable. And I think May has made Ottawa a little bit unlikable, which is good for the league.